Good evening. It is Sunday evening, November 26th, and let's just go over the snow that fell here in the Chicago area and fell over much of the Midwest, especially Kansas. Low pressure system, what's called the Colorado Low. It's a low pressure system that developed in the Colorado area. Originally, it was from the Pacific, but these things weaken as they go over to the Rockies, the Rocky Mountains, and redevelop off Colorado. When they dig south before coming up north, it's called the Panhandle Hook, and when they just move east, it's called a Colorado Low. Panhandle Hooks are more significant storms. This was a Colorado Low. We're going to talk about Kansas in a second because some mind-boggling stuff happened over there, but for right now, let's just talk about the Chicago area. Very similar snowfall accumulations today, officially, as what happened around a month ago when we also saw snowfall. It happened in a much different way, and the other big difference is that it doesn't seem to be as significant as what they are reporting. So the highest snowfall total amounts that I saw on the National Weather Service website was reported as of noon today at O'Hare Airport. That was the highest in the Chicago area of 1.8 inches. I can tell you that there's nothing on the ground as you go, as you head into the West Ridge area, West Rogers Park. There's absolutely nothing on the ground. There was snow on the ground earlier today. Evanston, Illinois, you have a half an inch was reported as of 7:30 a.m. I'm sure there was more that fell. You have at the National Weather Service office 1.5 inches, and there also was reported more than an inch at Midway? On the National Weather Service website, they still have it as a half an inch for Midway Airport, but I believe there was a little bit more than an inch that fell over there. Okay, now let's skip over to Kansas. Then we're going to come back to the Chicago area to discuss why there's nothing on the ground and why does this count as a 1.8 inch snow total if there likely never was 1.8 inches of snow on the ground. Hey, let's go into Kansas because just mind-boggling stuff over there. The forecasted snowfall amounts for Kansas, 3 to 6 inches. Actually, to tell you the truth, it was 2 to 5 inches. We said on this podcast that I thought some areas would get 6 inches. But if you actually look at the snow totals, a large area of what would be considered 6 to 12 inches fell in Kansas. We even have a city that starts with an M in Kansas that got 14.1 inches. About 4 or 5 cities received a foot or more of snow in the Kansas area. We have the maximum amounts in Nebraska, 8.5 inches. Oklahoma got 5 inches. We have a city in Texas that got 3.5 inches. In Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois, all 3 of those states, maximum amounts 4 inches. Illinois, you have Peoria, Illinois. This was the snow totals that were taken a little bit earlier today. Perhaps they've gone up a little bit from now, or perhaps not. Okay, now we'll talk about what happened in Kansas, why there was so much snow. So first of all, the storm system was forecasted to weaken as it moved east. That's because the Gulf moisture got cut off. The 3 ingredients here in the Midwest that you need to produce a major winter storm, which is defined as 6 inches of snow or more, is number 1, you need a storm system. You need significant low pressure. Number 2, you need an Arctic air mass on the backside. A polar air mass could also count. A strong high pressure on the backside, and you need copious amounts of Gulf moisture. You need Gulf moisture to feed into the system. That is our source of moisture here in the Midwest. It is the Gulf of Mexico. That is what it is. If you don't have that, if you don't have the Gulf of Mexico feeding into the system, the snowfall totals, no matter what, are going to be really limited. Okay, what we have that happened in Kansas, we have all those ingredients came together. Here in the Midwest, a 29.5 to 29.6 inch low is what developed over there. Here in the Midwest, that's considered a significant storm. We had a dynamic storm system, and we also likely had tremendous instability. That is why you see amounts so much higher than 6 inches. The 6 inches was, I don't know if that was a result of instability or not. Many areas, the University of Missouri tells us that 88% of the time, underneath lightning, there'll be 5.7 inches of snow. So there's several more inches of snow that fall in areas of thunder snow. Right outside the thunder snow, there's several inches less because as meteorologist Dave Murray, chief meteorologist KTVI, Channel 2 in St. Louis, retired, he lives in Hawaii, he tells us that lightning opens up the gates to heaven for snow. It just dumps all the snow out. So that's likely what happened in Kansas. So as the storm system moved east, the Gulf moisture got cut off, as the St. Louis National Weather Service pointed out yesterday. That got cut off. So with the moisture less, the storm system also was weaker, and that is what was forecasted. In regards to why there's nothing on the ground, but officially you have 1.8 inches, it's because the way they measure snowfall is every 30 minutes. The National Weather Service takes down the accumulation, and then they add it up as you go through the day. If the original 30 minutes of snow melts, if that melted, so then what happens is you get a snow total from the National Weather Service of a higher amount than whatever was on the ground. This is very significant information to know by some of the bigger storms that occur when temperatures are above 32. You might see large snowfall accumulations reported when you look outside and you just don't see it. I remember once there was a 9-inch official storm, but only 6 inches on the ground. So that's the reason for that. Now let's talk about what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. We have this front, a cold front that moved through the area this evening. This is a strong cold front, and what we have is borderline polar to Arctic. The Milwaukee National Weather Service refers to this as a polar front, which is not as strong as an Arctic front. Memphis, Tennessee tells us it's an Arctic front. The polar front comes from about 60 degrees north latitude. The Arctic area, the air masses that originate from the Arctic come from further north than that. So this one, it looks, it's for our area, it kind of does look more polar, but there are some areas where you see a flow coming straight from the Arctic, but that's more to our northeast. Now, the next couple of days, however, are going to be very cold in the mornings. We have wind chills dropping into the single digits over the next couple of days, Monday morning, Tuesday morning here in the Chicago area. A weak Clipper system moves by Tuesday and Wednesday. It just nibs Chicago. Chicago gets barely hit. The very southern edge of it might be hitting Chicago. It hits Chicago, and we could get some light snow on Tuesday or Wednesday. Then a more significant system moves through, which will be affecting, probably bringing some type of rain to the Chicago area on Friday. The temperatures do moderate. We go into a more zonal flow for the mid to latter parts of the week. All of this information comes from the National Weather Service. I'm just sharing it with you from the National Weather Service forecast discussion. They tell you the real deal. Not the actual forecast doesn't really tell you what's going on, and a lot of times the actual forecast is not really so accurate. Usually it is, but if you look at the forecast discussion, it is almost always accurate. There have been times where things have happened which were never mentioned in the forecast discussion, but it's rare. Usually anything that happens is at least mentioned as a possibility in the National Weather Service forecast discussion. We go into next week. We have another system that moves through early parts of next week, and then we have forecasters. This is not from the National Weather. The forecasters are forecasting colder air to come in for the middle to latter parts of next week. So, people in Kansas, enjoy your snowstorm. In Chicago, we didn't get too much over here. Wisconsin, the maximum in Wisconsin was 3 inches. So again, Wisconsin maximum 3 inches, Illinois 4 inches. Same with Missouri and Iowa. 8.5 inches for Nebraska, 14 inches in Kansas, 3.5 inches in Texas, 5 inches in Oklahoma. Wyoming got 28 inches, a city in Wyoming, and that, we'll leave off with that. And everyone, have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Enjoy your weather. It's the only weather you have.